Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. Quick announcement, today's video has two stories, both of them have updates. Now, let's begin with the first one. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user PrudentCoat8988. Am I the a-hole for not quitting my job over colleague's crush? I, 32 female, live with my partner, 44 male, and work in research. My primary colleague, 30 male, and I have worked together for around 2 years on a major project involving significant intellectual and labor contributions from us both. The project is expected to span at least another 2 years and is vital to both of our careers. Not long ago, my colleague confessed to me that he is and has been infatuated or in love with me for pretty much the duration. It took place via a long email that was written after an evening of drinking. This was totally unexpected. In retrospect, there may have been some insights, but nothing that would just as easily be accounted for by a considerate personality. Shortly after this confession, I came to my husband with the issue. I wanted to get his advice about the situation and showed him the drafts which I'd composed to organize my thoughts on the matter. They stated unequivocally that I am not interested in a romantic relationship and hope these feelings won't complicate our work together. I was again surprised at my husband's reaction this time. He seemed offended to think I must have invited my colleague's affections and that I should immediately quit my job. As in, put in notice tomorrow. I was so taken aback that my immediate reaction was to laugh and snort at his suggestion, which was probably a mistake. Quitting would be utterly disastrous for my career and isn't an option I'm willing to consider. I'd greatly prefer the entire scenario had never happened, as a difficult and lengthy project hangs in the balance, but I have no real concern at this point about my colleague forcing the issue or letting it compromise our work. It seemed like an intoxicated getting my feelings off my chest. I'll need to put a lot of thought and caution into how I proceed with the work dynamic, but abandoning our project isn't even on the table. About a week has passed. My husband has been alternating between irate and the silent treatment and suggested several times that I should move out of the house to be with my new spouse. Today, I swung by the house on my lunch break and found the locks changed and my luggage on the patio. I have been blocked on his work number and cell. Obviously, he cannot possibly intend for me to really move out and is just pulling what I absolutely believe to be an a-hole-ish power sulk. But seeing how seriously he's taking this has my doubts up. Maybe I was ultimately too uncompromising when I refused to even entertain quitting my job for the sake of conversation and his feelings and to shut down the idea so abruptly? Am I the a-hole? Well, OP, I don't believe you're the a-hole. There's 3 people in this story and you're not the a-hole. The other 2 are. Let's start with your work colleague. Why would he think it would be okay to send you that kind of an email? And if his excuse is that he felt like you needed to know, then he can go F himself because you don't do that. And regarding your husband, changing the locks and putting your stuff out in the front patio, I mean, what kind of reaction or response is that? I don't think that's the way a 44-year-old man behaves. The thing is, OP, you didn't do anything to invite your colleague to have a crush on you, and you're not quitting your job because that would ruin your career. One big thing I find odd is that for your husband, the only possible solution is that you quit your job. And that's not it. There are like a lot more solutions. Like for example, you talk to HR. Your colleague steps down and you keep running the project like you should do because you haven't done anything wrong here like I've said 15 times already. Anyway, you're not the a-hole in my opinion, OP. Your husband and your colleague are. And what about you guys? What do you think about this situation and what is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. OB Hunter says, I would not want to spend my adult life with someone who is so utterly insecure that they go as far as locking me out of my own home. That's early 20s, we share a tiny apartment type BS. Your project and career sound very labor intensive. Do you really need to worry about having a place to sleep because husband didn't like the way you looked at the guy in the coffee shop? Do you want to worry about a headache at home after a long day at work because you said thanks when your colleague lent you his pen and hubby found out? Not the a-hole. I'd straighten his behavior out immediately if I were you. Figure out exactly where husband stands and don't waste your time if the behavior doesn't show signs of improving. Annual Contract 115 says, not the a-hole, quit the husband, keep the job. Send the coworker a short and sweet no and keep all records. If he doesn't get the message, use the chain to HR for sexual harassment causing a hostile workplace. Heck, skip the no and go up the chain now if you like. Regarding your husband, any man that says you must have invited such behavior, etc. is not a man you want to be tied to, nor do you want to be tied to a man who tosses you out of the house, etc. Oh, and when you file for divorce, make sure you ask for the house and furnishings. He gets the mortgage bills, or an equal value in cash and full custody of the dogs. Dog Breathologist says, not the a-hole, but OP, you need to do some serious reflection about your relationship with your husband. Does he do other things that are controlling or immature? How does he normally solve conflict with you? What is his communication style? Because him changing the locks is so far beyond ridiculous, it boggles my mind. And I understand that you don't want to throw your marriage away, but his behavior is bizarre at best and controlling and abusive at worst. Definitely take the time at your sister's place to be open to listening to family. Obviously, some of them don't like him for a reason. Perhaps they saw something you didn't. Additional information from OP's comments. The next day at work, my colleague's disposition seemed identical to what it was pre-confession. Polite, invested in work, and observing appropriate boundaries. So I haven't mentioned it. It seems too abrupt. I figure I have a little time to draft an appropriate reply as I'm generally not as attentive to my personal inbox as my work one, and his email was sent to my personal. I'm weighing my options regarding HR. My company takes any kind of harassment very seriously, and while I don't want to jump the gun, I agree I might ultimately end up needing a mediator. I'm somewhat concerned about the possible extent of my colleague's drinking and how it might affect our work down the road, or for him to have written such an out-of-character email. As I suspected no such affection from my colleague in the past, I was on personally friendly terms with him. I have attended a casual holiday get-together at his house on one occasion, gone to dinner in a group with colleagues, including him, to celebrate achievements, and made myself available to take calls outside of work hours. My husband may be reviewing instances like that and wondering if there isn't more to the story. Ultimately, I ended up being distracted from my colleague's situation by my husband's situation, but I feel I definitely need to make a response within the next 48 hours or so. The issue of jealousy isn't totally new, but this is the first time it's come to such a head. In the first year of our relationship, we were both still casually seeing other people, which caused some tension. That aside, I guess the insecurity could be due to how recent our marriage was, or the way I brushed aside his concerns initially. Also, we got married 4 months ago after a 3-year dating relationship. I think I'm ultimately shell-shocked at having 2 unexpected emotional bombs dropped by 2 people close to me in 1 week. Yes, I'm seeing a pattern of controlling behavior and regulation of my social circle. Friends who are too immature for me to spend time with. Family members who are overbearing and demands made. This situation and thread have been a wake-up call. The stress I'm under at work is enormous. My field is extremely competitive, and this is a make-it-or-break-it type of project. So I think my instinct here is to people please and sweep as much under the rug as possible due to my limited bandwidth for dealing with more stress. Anyway, the house is actually in my name, inherited from my dad before I married. The luggage he packed contained only some random things, a couple of suits and miscellaneous items from my nightstand. This makes me believe he's just chucking an outside tantrum instead of expecting me to actually vacate. In any case, I'm shocked enough by my husband's outburst to meet him in a neutral place to gauge his attitude before returning to the house, and I'm going to insist on couples therapy as an absolute must before moving forward. Well, the community definitely had something to say, and OP was listening. So now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends, but before, let me tell you about my playlists, like this one, all with stories that have updates. Now let's move on. Update 1. Hubby called me. Long story short, he's been extremely anxious each day when I leave for work, and buckled from that pressure today. I'm welcomed back home once I've quit my job, which is obviously still unacceptable. I am considering taking a week of accrued paid leave, which will hopefully result in an adult conversation with my husband, as well as coming to a decision about how to best handle my colleague. That failing, I'm hearing the word lawyer loud and clear throughout these comments. I'm grateful for all the support and perspective. OP's update 2. I ended up calling my sister, 38 female, something I avoided initially because I didn't want to stir the pot by involving family members who are already disliked by my husband. I'm currently with her and my cousin, 35 male, who are both supportive. Our plan is to call a locksmith tomorrow to regain access to the property. Husband can ruminate with friends or at a hotel for the present. My cousin will collect some important things of mine from the house, and I'm to stay with my sister for a few days while I take a hard look at my situation and options. I'm not set on divorce at this point, but I definitely need to reassert some very basic boundaries before exploring further discussion with my husband. Thank you, strangers on Reddit, for helping me emerge from the emotional haze with some clarity. OP's final update. Enormous thanks for all the private messages after the comments were locked. I'm a little overwhelmed with life in general right now, so I haven't replied to everyone, but I wanted to update you and let it be known that I am safe and well. My husband tried to bar my cousin from entering the family home to retrieve my things, which escalated to a physical confrontation. The police arrived and both husband and cousin were made to leave the premises. My sister and I changed the locks the next day to secure the house. I am staying with family for a little while I plan my next move, which will in all likelihood be a divorce. Thanks again to all who've shared feedback and concern. Well, OP, I can't count this as a happy update because there's no happy in your husband behaving like an idiot and then you having to file for divorce because he is an idiot. However, this is a positive update because you are out of that situation and moving on to a better one. So all the best in the future, OP. Wish you all the success possible with your project and hopefully your colleague stops behaving like an idiot and you can move on. Thank you so much for sharing and take care in the future. Now, let's move on to the next post that, like I said in the beginning, also has an update. So, my husband, male 36, and I, female 35, are high school sweethearts. We got pregnant in high school, dated for a few years after we had our baby, and decided we did want to get married. Through every single up and down, we were there for one another. I honestly didn't think we could have a more perfect relationship. It's something I have been so proud of most of my life. Then about 4 months ago, my husband asked me to get a job at his company. Before this, I had just been working part-time jobs because we didn't really need the money since we weren't financially responsible for a child anymore. However, we agreed the extra money would be lovely to go towards our family trip funds, something we both and our son add to as often as possible. Our hope is to take a family vacation across Europe for a few months, and we are trying to make it happen sooner than later because our son is recently married. We want them to be able to still go on the trip without worrying about a new baby. Once I got the job, I thought it was such a great decision. I was making quite a bit of extra money and seeing my husband so much more. Well, a couple of weeks ago, one of his co-workers approached me and asked how I could be so cool with the ongoing situation. I had no idea what she was talking about, so I asked her for more detail and she told me my husband and one of his co-workers had been having an affair for over a year. Well, honestly, I trust my husband more than this woman I just met. I told him about it that night and he immediately broke down. He told me he was so sorry, but it was true. He said I'm still the love of his life, but he needs some excitement outside of our relationship. He told me he had been feeling so guilty about it, he asked me to start working there, hoping it would make him want to cheat less. But it's actually just caused them to sneak around more and find their relationship even hotter. I don't know what to do, I'm so humiliated. I feel like I should stick this out because we have been together so long and I know it would devastate our son, but I don't think I can move on from this. He didn't even apologize, just told me every man needs something new and exciting in a long-term relationship and that it means nothing. Well, it certainly feels like something. Okay, OP, I know you're not asking for any advice, but here's my 2 cents. First of all, go to a divorce lawyer, see what he tells you that you can do. Then go to HR and blow the lid off this thing. Every man needs something new and exciting in a long-term relationship? What the F is that? He is an idiot and he's trying to excuse his horrible behavior with that stupid line. Come on. So yeah, there's not much more to say, OP, here. You just need to stand up for yourself and get him out of your life. So what do you guys think about OP's situation? What would you do if you were in her shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they had to say. Lily Ling Tan says, your husband is scum and used you working there to make your humiliation harder for him and a fair partner. Divorce now, don't fudge around thinking he will change, because he won't. He will only hide it more and then you'll find out and be more hurt. And OP says, you're absolutely right. It just hurts so bad, I'm just in shock. Crazy Cat Lady Forever says, oh hun, no. I'm so sorry you're going through this. I'm gonna be really blunt here. He wants to have his cake and eat it too. He is lying. Not every man needs that excitement in a long-term relationship. He has been lying and deceiving you for a year. Is he using protection? If not, then he's also playing with your health. I don't like jumping on the leave him train, but let's be real. He is not sorry for hurting and humiliating you. He shows no remorse and doesn't want to stop. Obviously, he is a fair partner and more important to him than you. He made you come work for a company where people know about his cheating. He's made you their laughingstock. I don't even want to imagine what he says about you behind your back. He is obviously expecting you to sit by and watch. He doesn't think you can exist without him and thus doesn't have to fear any consequences. He is completely underestimating you and what you are capable of. No loving spouse would show this much disrespect, because when you truly love someone, you do respect them, and you don't hurt them this monumentally. He's gaslighting you into thinking this is normal. It's not. Seek legal advice, look for counseling, and talk to friends and family. Do not let him minimize this betrayal, and with that, your feelings. And OP responds, your reply means so much to me, thank you. I know I need to take this step. I'm very scared and heartbroken, but I know I need to do it. AAPBH says, go to HR and report both of them. But before you do that, quietly go and talk to a lawyer. Get your things together. Move out of your house with your child. He's a piece of crap and so is his affair partner. Find out if she's in a relationship and let that person know. Make it public at your job how you found out. Make sure she and him are both seen as the scum they are. You do not deserve this. You can be the bigger person and also get your own justice. I know it hurts and it's going to hurt for a while, but as long as you know and understand you deserve more, you will be okay. Please don't let this person bring you down. Make him realize, since he forgot, what you're worth and what he lost. OP's edit. Thank you everyone for the kind words and support. I also got many messages that were so sweet. It has been really helpful to read everyone's advice. I was trying to figure out the best way to tell our son. I wanted to sit him down and let him know that my husband and I are getting a divorce. I bought the things to make his favorite meal and invited him over for dinner. Well, a couple of hours ago, he called me and was extremely upset. He said that my husband told him I cheated and we were getting a divorce. He begged my son not to tell me as it would just cause further problems. But my son wanted to know how I could do that to dad and couldn't stay silent. I told him what actually happened over the phone and he started crying. I am absolutely furious that my husband put my son through that. Even though he's an adult, it's still a very upsetting topic and it should have been handled with care, not lies. I found a great divorce lawyer with my friend's help and I am getting the ball rolling immediately. His mistress also messaged me after she found out I knew. She said I should be grateful that my husband and I had a good marriage while we did, but she would be taking my place now. I ignored her message and blocked her. I have an amazing support system in place and will be moving out later today. I'm staying with my friend and his wife until I can find a place of my own. I told my husband I was divorcing him and moving out. He broke down and asked how I could do this to our family. He said I'm the one making the decision to end it and I should be ashamed I would throw away our marriage. He said he couldn't believe I would throw in the towel so quickly. I told him to F off and go cry to his mistress. So now you're all caught up. If any more happens, I might update again. Thank you all again for your kind words and support. You guys have made this a little easier. Well, OP heard what the community was saying and she gave us a full edit update as to what happened then. So now let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. So I read everyone's comments about reporting my husband and his mistress to HR and also sleeping with his boss. I did report them to HR, but unfortunately there isn't anything they can really do because there's not actually any proof. I showed them the texts, but they said unless I had proof of them committing acts on worked property, nothing could be done. On one bright side, I guess, his mistress and I found out there had been a lot of others, including some older than her. His oldest affair had been going on for over 5 years. It was just a friend with benefits type of situation. It was one of the moms I was on the PTA with. Both are married and just looking for sex apparently. Well, his mistress is just devastated. She cannot believe he could possibly do this to her. She actually reached out to me asking for advice on how to handle everything. Once she realized I blocked her, she had one of our co-workers come in to ask me. As far as my job goes, I actually really love it. F the two of them, I'm keeping it. I'm good at it and I'm enjoying it. I make a livable wage from it. HR did tell me they would transfer me to a different branch, so I'm actually in the process of moving. Not just out of my ex's and my house, but pretty far away. My ex begged me for a second shot to honor my vows and the commitment I made. He got very upset when I brought up the fact that he didn't keep his vows. He told me that first and foremost, loyalty should come first. That no matters the mistake, I should stand by his side. I looked at him and told him to kiss my effing ass. That is my favorite thing to come out of this so far. My son believed me 100% without showing him the messages from the mistress. He cut contact with his dad. Also, to clear up some confusion, my son is 20. He met his girlfriend in his first year of college and they got married 2 months ago. Very recent and part of the reason I was so concerned about the news of his dad and me. So all in all, I am moving and starting over, and I have full support from everyone except my parents who think I should stay and stick it out. Thank you so much to everyone who sent kind words and encouragement. You truly made a hard time a little easier. Well, OP, I'm gonna count this as a happy update, because you just lost a lot of weight in the shape of an idiot that used to be married to you. I'm so sorry you went through all of this, OP, but it's a good thing that you're coming out of it. All the best in the future, and take care. Thank you for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.